let us begin. I'm first of all very, very happy to see so many friends and colleagues from all across the world and coming in from North America, from the States and Canada, and then from Europe, from Germany, the UK, Italy, Poland, and elsewhere, and also our colleagues here in Israel from the various institutions and research universities. So it's a great pleasure and honor to have you here. Usually at such occasions, one asks the dean of the university to open up, or then the head of department, and if somebody is really lucky, then he gets the rector or the president of the university to come and say a few words. But actually there's no need, because you have a priest in front of you officiating Kohen. You have a priest in front of you officiating the meeting, and therefore I can bless you all with the Kohen blessing and inaugurate this meeting. I mean, I cannot think of many opportunities where one has a whole conference dedicated to one's prestigious lineage. Having said that, in a sense, I suppose that my role here is similar to many other ancient holders of this prestigious title. I'm simply functioning here in nomine. I didn't do too much, and the two people who were really responsible for putting this conference together are Professor Michael Yosa and Dr. Shai Gordin. Therefore, I call upon Shai Gordin to say a few opening words and tell us what the conference is about and how it is structured, and this will be then followed by welcoming remarks from Professor Yosa. So thank you, Shai. Thank you.
Thank you, Cohen. Your way. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests from far and near, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the international conference marking the third and final year of our joint Vienna-Tel Aviv project, which deals with the priesthood of the city of Uruk in the first millennium BC. Biblical Erech, modern Warka, also known as the legendary city of the hero Gilgamesh, Uruk and its main temple Diana, sanctuary of the goddess Ishtar, were key players in the regional and interregional network of peoples and goods that flowed south from Babylon along the Euphrates. By studying the large body of cuneiform tablets recovered from Diana, our project set out to reconstruct an important part of the city's priestly families during the long 6th century, as it has been now coined by Michael Yosa. Building on an updated prosopographical study of the Diana archive, we employ newer methods in digital humanities, such as social network analysis and machine learning algorithms, to better understand the structure and organization of the archives. The cultic and economic status of the priesthood was evaluated through the comprehensive reconstruction of the clearly defined income rights related to activities in the cult, usually termed prebends, which is a terminology borrowed from the ecclesiastical history. Alongside kings and queens, the military and the literati, priests are one of the most influential agents of society. For thousands of years, from the dawn of urbanism to the very last days of the major Near Eastern civilizations, priests were central figures not only in the realm of cult, but also in politics, economy, and society. A variety of sources, from India in the east through Babylonia, Syria, Turkey, the Levant, and Egypt, provide us with a multifaceted view of priests. Some are known to us as family men, businessmen, or entrepreneurs, others as administrators of cult, and yet others as exegetes of myth and ritual. Many priests were members of the elite communities, chosen on account of their physical purity. Yet the complex nature and stratified structure of the priesthood leads to divergent definitions of its members and institutions. Therefore, a synchronic and chronological study of the literary, economic, and legal output of priests and priesthood is still a desideratum. This conference brings together an international group of scholars from different historical, archaeological, and literary disciplines, covering some 3 millennia of ancient Near Eastern civilizations and beyond. I think this is adequately embodied in our wide array of speakers for the next 3 days. And I thank all of you for happily agreeing to participate. Some of you, as I shall soon note, set the basic definitions we now use when talking on priests in the ancient Near East. Not forgetting that our aim here is to try and look not only deep, but also across, west to the classical world, east over the Indus River Valley into India, and even farther afield across the East China Sea into Japan. Our specialists on the priestly traditions in India and Shintoism will introduce crucial comparative information, and I'm looking forward very much to the following discussions. What makes a priest? Each religion clearly sets its own parameters, be they social, legal, or ritualistic. One of the most well-known group of priests is, of course, that of the biblical Kohanim and Leviim, who were first organized during Israel's exodus in the desert. One can define them in many ways according to their activities, but the most basic identity is based on lineage, as we just heard, a Kohen being the male descendant of Aaron, brother of Moses, and a Levi member of a tribe by that name. A Christian monk, on the other hand, was identified as solus soli deu vacans, who in solitude makes himself free for God alone, namely based on the nature of his activity that makes him mediator between God and men. Such Jewish and Christian definitions stand on a spectrum of identities, all of which distill the cultural koine of ancient religions. Caroline Wertzacher, elaborating on Fandril, stressed how Babylonian priests were first and foremost legally defined by their possession of an isku, a share. This term is usually translated as the aforementioned prebend, and allowed access to the temple cult for certain privileged families and their male descendants. But priests in the Near East did not stay at their main cult center all the time, and their migration, be it forced or voluntary, frequently had consequences for the transmission of sacrificial rites across space and time. Dominique Charpin has famously shown how this happened in southern Mesopotamia, when exiled priests from Eridu arrived at Ur during the Old Babylonian period. And Walter Zallerberger posited similar context between the two cult centers even earlier during Ur 3 times. This later period had a culmination of elements in city cult, which set the tone for the next 1,000 years in Mesopotamia. But date to the very beginnings of the priestly institution during the early 3rd millennium BC. Even the very sources of this institution of city cult were recently questioned by Piotr Steinkeller. So we are indeed very fortunate having all of them here today to start us off with understanding more clearly the origins of priesthood in the Near East and its early development. Hence, the focus of the conference will shift from studying priests as mediators between man and God, or as representatives of temple institutions. Rather, we will discuss different aspects of the life of priests, cultic, intellectual, entrepreneurial, or personal. How did priests construct their individual and collective identities? Issues of status and personal aspirations, either to see themselves as integrate part of a given social, economic, and religious environment, or to manipulate and change this environment for their own benefit or for the benefit of others or the temple. I wish to thank my co-organizers, Yoram Cohen and Michael Yosa, for their endless support of this project from the onset and for suffering my constant barrage of strange ideas. I am truly honored to work with Michael and Kathleen Abraham on the Nabucco project, without whom nothing of this would have been made possible. So this is also a place to thank the teams in Leuven and Vienna, especially Melanie Gross, Stefania Armidoro, Matthias Adelhofer, and Evelyn van der Stretten. We are, of course, considering the best way in which the results of this interdisciplinary meeting be published. The plan is a synthetic presentation of New Babylonian priesthood from a comparative perspective, both from the ancient Near East viewpoint and as seen from outside the Near East. If anyone has concrete suggestions, we are happy to discuss the issue further. Our project and this conference are generously funded by the Fritz Thyssen Foundation, as well as the Israel Academy of Sciences and Tel Aviv University. Sincere gratitude goes to Oded Lifshitz, Nirit Kedem, Nadine Reshef, Rona Miller, Elada Aron, and all those in the Institute of Archaeology and the department who have helped with bringing this exciting program into realization. I wish everyone a fruitful and happy conference.
Okay, I will be very brief. The introductory remarks Shai just made have covered admirably, I think, the objectives of this conference. So it falls to me just also to welcome you in my name as one of the persons involved in the preparation of this meeting here. My involvement has been, I must admit, very minimal and is essentially limited to the beginning and the finding of funds. The bulk of the work was done by Shai Goldin, and we really should thank him for having made all of this possible. Otherwise, I just fall suit with my predecessors here who spoke and state that I hope that we will have fruitful discussions also in an interdisciplinary fashion. So I hope that we will manage to be intelligible to colleagues from neighboring fields, and I ask those colleagues also to be a little bit patient with us being ancient Near Eastern specialists, should we become too technical. If there is anything that this happens in ancient Near Eastern studies, as you know. So if this should become too extreme, then stop us and ask, and we will also not hesitate to ask for clarification when you give your presentations. In that way, the interdisciplinary setting can be fruitful for all of us, I hope. So, and in that vein, I thank you all for being here. Thank you to Jori for also hosting us. It's very strange to open a conference in which one essentially is, well, in part organizer, but in part also guest. So I will end this slightly ambiguous opening in that sense and ask Shai to introduce our first speaker.